Om 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 Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Samasta Janakalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahmavidvaram Sadgurum Brahmavidvaram Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha Om Sahana Vavato Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamasto Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Bole Shri Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. So welcome on this eve of Navaratri. We are here to do the 18th episode of Vivekachoodamani in this 5th month. So the verses 241 to 249 gives an explanation about the Mahavakya called Tattvam Asi. What is a sentence and what is a great sentence? Mahavakya means great sentence. Other Vakyas are sentences. A sentence is something that has a subject, an object and a predicate, and it concludes. There's a whole meaning to that sentence. So anything can be a sentence. But what makes a sentence a Mahavakya? When that sentence points out that the Jiva, the individual, and Ishvara or Brahman, the Supreme, is one and the same, then it becomes a Mahavakya. Tattvam padabhyam abhidhiyamanayoho brahmatmano shodhita yor yaditham Shrutva tayostattvamaseeti samyak ekatvameva pratipadyate muhu aikyam tayor lakshitayorna vachayoho nigadyate nyonya viruddha dharminoho khadyota bhanvoriva rajabhrityayoho Kupamburashyo Paramanumirvoho. The poet in Bhagavan Sri Adisankaracharya gives us many similes to explain this. In these two verses, Tattvam Padabhyam Abhidhiyamanayoho. In the Shrutis, in the Vedas, Tat Tvam. Tat is that. Tvam is you. Tat Tvam Abhidhiyamanayoho. When it keeps talking about it again, what does it mean? Brahma Atmanoho Shodhitayoho Yadi Ittam. It is purifying the word meanings of Brahman and Atman. Tat is Brahman, Tvam is Atman. So when the Shrutis keep talking about Tattvam Asi, that Brahman is this Atman, is. So it is purifying that word. Shodhanam is to purify. Purifying means removing all the dross, removing all the unwanted things from these two words, and then showing the identity. Shrutya tayoho tattvamasiti samyak. Shrutya, by the Shrutis, tayoho, among the two, Brahman and Atman, tat tvam asi, that thou art. Samyak, ekatvam, it makes it one. Is there any difference? How can I be that Brahman? I'm an ordinary person, I'm an ordinary individual. I am not capable of anything that Brahman is capable of. I am so ordinary. No, whatever the ordinariness may be, that is the truth. That is the reality. The Shrutis, ekatvam pratipadyate, muhuhu. Again and again, the Vedas, the Upanishads talk about this. Tat, tvam, asi. How is it possible? How can that Brahman be this Atman? This Atman means this individual who's speaking and who's listening. That Atman. How can that Brahman be this Atman? Aikyam tayoho lakshitayoho na vachyayoho. Here, when it is said that that Brahman is this Atman, it does not mean the literal meaning. The literal meaning is I'm an ordinary person, I'm a simple person, I may be even a stupid person, but Brahman is everything beautiful, everything great, everything magnanimous, everything brilliant, everything so powerful. How can this person be that person? So here, the Vachyartha or the literal meaning is this physical body and that Brahman. Nigatyate anyonya. So vachyayoho, aikyam tayoho, lakshitayoho, na vachyayoho, nigadyate anyonya viruddha dharminoho. This vachya artha or the literal meaning is contradictory. When you say this is like that, we need to see similarities. If we can't see similarities, you can say, how can you say this is that? We will ask. So in the same way, the Vachya Artha or the literal meaning has Viruddha Dharma. In many, many ways, the individual is different from the Brahman, the supreme truth. How is it Viruddha Dharma? Kadyota Bhanvor Iva. Like the glowworm and the sun. What is the difference between me and the Brahman? The Atman and the Brahman? Kadyota. Like the glowworm which shines at night. Sometimes it shines, sometimes it's dull. Bhanvoho iva Raja Bhrutyayoho. Like the king and the servant of the king. How much of a difference is there between the two in their powers? Rajya Bhrutyayoho. Kupa Amburashyoho. Like the water in the well and the water in the ocean. The difference between the ocean and the well, that is the difference between the Atman and the Brahman. Paramanu Mervoho. The Mount Meru is supposed to be a very, very, very big mountain, even bigger than the Himalayas. Paramanu is a supreme tiny dot, tiny atomic particle is Paramanu. What is the difference between a Paramanu and a Meru mountain? That much of a difference is there. That is in the Vachya Artha. Vachya Artha means in the literal meaning of Atman and Brahman, there are such differences. Then what is it that we need to... so the glowworm and the sun, the servant and the king, the well and the ocean, the atom and Mount Meru, they're all very, very different. Obviously, you cannot see any comparison in all of them. So is the difference between the Jiva and the Ishvara. The small things are the Jiva and the big things are the Ishvara here. Now we'll see the next verse, verse 243. Tayor virodhoyam upadhikalpito navastava kaschid upadhireshaha ishasya maya mahadadikaranam jivasya karyam shrunu panchakosham. So there are, the differences are in the Vachya Artha. Vachya Artha means the literal meanings. Tayoho virodaha ayam upadhikalpitaha. The differences are in the upadhis or the limiting adjuncts of the Ishvara and the Jiva. That which limits the Ishvara, that which limits the Jiva, the limitations are different. The water is the same in the well and in the ocean, but in the well the limitation is smaller. In the ocean, the limitation is very, very wide, very big. न वास्तः न वास्तवः कश्चित् upadhi. These upadhis or limitations are not permanent. They are not vastava, means they are not the reality always. Ishasya maya mahadadi karanam. The upadhi or the limitation for Ishvara is maya. Maya is that the thought forms which produce the names and forms all around us is maya, and that maya is the upadhi for Ishvara. Upadhi means a limitation. Ishvara is limited by maya because appearing to be limited by maya. When we look outside, we don't say everything is one. We say there are trees, there are plants, there's earth, there's water, there's fire, there's air, there are so many people, there's grass, there are mountains, there are rivers, there are governments, there's politics. We say so many things. So they're all Maya. And Ishvara appears to be limited by all this. Upadhi Mahadadi Karanam. Mahat means the intellect, the Ahankara, the Manas, the Chitta, then the sense organs, the Tanmatras or the sense organs, the power behind the sense organs, Tanmatras, the sense organs and the sense objects of seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling and touching. These are all the upadhis of Ishvara. Mahadadi Karanam. Then what is this Jiva's upadhi? Jivasya Karyam Shrunu Panchakosha. The effects of the Jiva are the Panchakoshas, the Annamaya Kosha, the physical body, the Pranamaya Kosha, the energy body, the Manomaya Kosha or the mind body, the Vijnanamaya Kosha or the intellect body, and the Anandamaya Kosha is the experience of bliss in deep sleep when we don't know that we are really experiencing that bliss. So these are the differences in the upadhis. Gurudev has given a very beautiful tabular column on this microcosm, which is called Vyashti, the Jiva, and the macrocosm, which is called the Samashti, Ishvara. In the Vyashti or the individual, it represents the Jiva, an individual entity. In the Samashti, it is called Jagat, all the plurality put together, the cosmos, this whole universe that we see is called Jagat. The supreme consciousness functioning through a given gross body is called Vishwa. All this is there in the Mandukya Upanishad, very beautiful tabulation. Vishwa means the supreme consciousness, supreme I that we say, which is expressing through this gross body. I say, I am living, I am seeing, right? That's a supreme consciousness expressing through this gross body. It is called Vishwa. And in the waking state, it is called the waker. The supreme consciousness functioning through the aggregate of all gross bodies. In all living bodies, that supreme consciousness is expressing, that is called the Virat, Virajate. It is shining everywhere. That is, consciousness is that which shines. If you say there is some shine coming out of this face, or there is a shine in that tomato, or there is a shine in that very beautifully ripe pumpkin which is washed, or any vegetable which shines, it is all because of that consciousness, the presence of consciousness. That is the Vishwa. And in the shine of everything in this universe, the light that is present in all beings, the light that is present in the sun, in the moon, and on the mountains, on the rivers, on the oceans, whatever light is reflected, it is called the Virat. This light of consciousness, awareness. The supreme consciousness functioning through the individual subtle body. In me, there is a subtle body. That subtle body is comprised of Manas, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara, Prana. That supreme consciousness, which is expressing through these equipment, is called Tejas, or the dreamer. That is what we see in our dreams. In our dreams, we see bodies. Many persons appear in our dreams, which means there are many bodies. and we also see ourselves sometime in our dream. So these are all manufactured out of that subtle elements which is called Tejas. It is called the dreamer. And the supreme consciousness functioning through all the aggregate subtle bodies, everybody in this world, all the human beings, even animals, plants, we don't know what they do, but the human beings, at least we know that everybody, they dream, they keep thinking constantly. Their thoughts and emotions are being churned in the waking state. In the dream state, they all experience dreams. If they don't experience dreams, they have gone into a state of deep sleep. That's the only difference. Otherwise, they experience dreams in the REM sleep. The total mind where dreams are experienced is called the Hiranyagarbha, and the individual mind where the dream is experienced is called Taijasa, or the dreamer. The Supreme Self functioning through the causal body. Causal body means the vasanas, ignorance, meaning vasanas are sattva-guna, rajoguna, tamoguna, and all the impressions that are all combination of these gunas, which are vasanas, which is there in our subtle body, and that expression is called avidya in the subtle body. The same Atman, the same consciousness, or that Brahman, which is functioning through all the causal bodies, that it means the Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna, everywhere. Even if you take time, it has got Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. How do we know that? In the Panchangam, every day begins, some days begin with Sattva Guna. Every 1.5 hours, the gunas change. Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. It goes on like that. And again, Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. There are some 3 days which begin with Sattva Guna, and some days which begin with Rajoguna, and some days which begin with Tamoguna. So there, among the trees, there are Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. Among animals, there are Sattvic animals, Rajasic animals, and Tamasic animals. Among human beings also, there is Sattvic personality, Rajasic personality, and the Tamasic personality. So the combination of all these gunas make us do, it is a causal ignorance. That ignorance makes us desire, and the desires make us think thoughts, speak words, and do actions. Those actions bring back results, and the same process keeps continuing. That's called vasanas. The results which come and imprint themselves on our mind is called vasana. It is in our causal body, and at the individual level, it is called prajna. The avidya, that ignorance at the individual level, is called prajna. Prakarshena jna means that individual, I know something about myself. I know I may be a lazy person. I know I may be a dull-witted person. These qualities I know about myself. So that is called prajna. But in the same way, the causal body of this whole universe, in the individual level, the ignorance is called avidya. At the universal level, it is called maya. And the causal body, the imprint of the causal body is called Ishvara at the universal level. So these are the differences between the individual and Brahman. And so we have here, we remove all the limiting adjuncts. We remove all the limitations between the Ishvara and the Jiva. And when the limitations are removed, what remains? Both of them are same. एतावुपाधि परजीवयोस्तयोः सम्यग् निरासेन परो न जीवः राज्यं नरेन्द्रस्य भटस्य खेटकः तयोरपोहे न भटो न राजा. Very beautiful simile is given here. Eta upadhi, this prajna, Tejas, Vishwa, Virat, Hiranyagarbha, and Ishvara. These three, these are all the upadhis. Upadhi means they are the limitations. Etau upadhi, these two superimpositions of the jiva and the Ishvara, para jiva yoho, para jiva yoho tayoho. Para means the supreme, jiva, between them. Samyak nirase, when you remove the upadhis, nirase means removing them. Na paro na jivaha, there is no supreme, there is no jiva. Rajyam narendrasya, the kingdom of the king, bhatasya ketakaha, when you remove the kingdom of the king and when you remove the shield of the soldier, tayoho apohe na bhato na raja, when you remove all the symbolism around the king, when you remove all the symbolism or what the soldier is meant to, when you remove all that equipment, there is a man, here is a man. There is no difference between the two. That person is not the king, this person is not the soldier. In the same way, when you remove the accoutrements, it's called entrappings or the limitations of the jiva and the limitations of Ishvara, there is no difference between the two. In the same way, continuing, there is a very beautiful lakshana in Sanskrit. It is called Jahal Lakshana, Ajahal Lakshana, Jahal Ajahal Lakshana. So, which means Lakshana is meant to, in a sentence, how to understand a sentence. This Lakshana is given. So, how to understand the sentence that the Jiva and Ishvara are one. Athata adesha iti shruti swayam nishedhati brahmani kalpitam dvayam shruti pramananugrahita bodhat tayor nirasa karaniya eva. Atha. Now, in this injunction, like what is being mentioned, adesha iti, there is an adesha. Now, atha, then, therefore, this adesha, this Shruti is saying this is an injunction, which means that thou art. You don't have to, we can always contemplate on it. We don't have to blindly take it. You say, you are that. Tattvam asi. I don't need to blindly accept that statement. I can always work it out like a mathematical problem. Iti Shrutihi Swayam Nishedhati Brahmani Kalpitam Dvayam. The Shrutis, when it says that thou art, the Shrutis has removed all the differences between the Jiva and the Ishvara and only then has said this. It is not saying it with the limitations of the Jiva and Ishvara. Kalpitam Dvayam. Shruti Pramana Anugrahita Bodha. So when we take the Pramana or the measurement that is provided by the Shrutis and I accept it and I try to contemplate on it and I understand it, Tayoho Nirasaha Karaniya Eva. Because the Shrutis are saying this, they are removing all this dross between the Jiva and the Ishvara that differentiates them. Tayoho Nirasaha Karaniya Eva. We should just try to eliminate all this and then look at the unity between the Jiva and the Ishvara. How do we do that? Nedam kalpitatvanna satyam rajjudrishtavyala vat swapnavacham itham drishyam sadhu yukta yuktya vyapohya jneyah paschad eka bhavastayoryaham. Na idam, not this gross, not this subtle. There is something gross, there is something physical, there is something material. You remove that in your thought. You don't remove the object, but in your thought you say not this gross, and then there is something subtle also inside that gross, not this subtle. Kalpitatvan satyam, like the snake seen in a rope and seen in dreams are not real snake. In a rope, you because of the darkness, Sometimes you can experience like it is like a snake. That snake is not real. The rope is only real. In the dream also sometimes you may experience a snake. That is also not Vyalavat Swapnavachya. It is not real. Itham Drishyam, in this way, Drishyam, whatever you see in this world, Drishyam, the Yoga Shastras say, Panchabhutatmakam, no, Prakasha, Sthiti, Kriyashilam. It has got consciousness. Consciousness means it is revealing itself. Satvaguna, Prakasha, Sthiti, it is steady. It is Tamoguna. Kriyashilam, it is active also. It changes and moves. Kriyashilam. Then Panchabhuta Indriya Atmakam. Panchabhuta means 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. Indriya, the respective sense organs or the powers of the sense organs of seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, and touching. Then, what does that drishyam do? Bhoga apavargam drishyam. Drishyam of this universe is there to give me bhoga. It is there to give me experiences in life. With experiences only, I keep knowing. I improve my knowledge with experience. That is one thing. And experience is also meant for fulfilling my desires. I wish for a Toyota car. I don't know what is the latest model of car. I wish for a Toyota car, and this drishyam gives me a Toyota car at one point of time. If my wishes are backed by actions and the required actions to get that car, I experience that car and I drive the car. I have the feeling that I have driven the Toyota car. So that is bhoga. Apavarga is to make me free of all these desires, to just give me knowledge so that I become free of all these desires. I don't keep desiring for something or the other. That is the role of this whole universe around us. Drishyam. Itham drishyam sadhuyuktya vyapohya. Sadhuyuktya means by good reasoning, by proper reason, not kutarka, not by arguments, or not by slashing something, or not by destroying something, but by proper reasoning and proper thinking. Vyapohya, removing this drishyam from our perception. Jneyah paschat ekabhavah tayoho yaha. After this is done, after this is removed, the drishyam is removed in my thoughts, I understand that the jiva or the individual consciousness and Ishvara, the supreme consciousness, are one. ततस्तु तौ लक्षणया सुलक्ष्यौ तयोरखण्डैक रसत्वसिद्धये नालं जहत्यान तथा जहत्या किन्तु भयार्थित्मिकयैव किन्तु भयार्थात्मिक yaiva bhavyam. This is a very somewhat a little bit understanding is required. In the Shastras, there are some lakshanas are given to understand the implied meaning derived in a statement. Lakshanas are given. Jahal lakshana, ajahal lakshana, jahal ajahal lakshana. Jahal lakshana is to understand something is equal to something. I remove something from one thing and then everything is made equal. I can understand. Ajahal lakshana is to understand the similarities between two things. I add something to it and then okay, now it is similar. And the third is Jahal Ajahal lakshana. It is also called Bhagatyaga Lakshana by some others. Jahal Ajahal Lakshana is I remove something, I add something, and then I experience the equality between the two. Tataha tu tau lakshanaya sulakshyau. The two terms, Ishvara and Jiva, should be carefully understood with this lakshana. Jahal Lakshana and Ajahal Lakshana, Sulakshyau, Tayoho, Akhandaika Rasatva Siddhaye. Akhanda, meaning between the two, the Jiva and the Ishvara, there is no difference. Like, it is as simple. Between the space within this body and the space outside this body, there is no difference. Between the consciousness within this body and the consciousness that is everywhere in this universe, there is no difference. So this much only is there the difference between the non-difference between the Jiva and the Ishvara. Na alam jahatya, na tatha ajahatya, kintu ubhayarthatmika yaiva bhavyam. It is neither by total rejection of something. Okay, you reject everything. You reject that you don't say, like, of course, I am limited, my capacities are limited, my powers are limited, my knowledge is limited. Ishvara is supreme, his powers are supreme, his capacities and abilities are supreme, and his qualities are also very, very different from mine. So don't remove everything. And okay, don't remove all the qualities of Ishvara and all the qualities of Jiva, and then say no, there are no different. They are just the same. Like somebody says, I am also 8th standard fail, and Ramana Maharishi is also 8th standard fail. So there is a difference between the two. It is not that both are just because it is not the beard that makes a philosopher. So we say it is not just because I have failed 8th standard and somebody might have passed or failed, he became a great saint. We cannot become one just because of that. So we have to see what all has to be taken and what all has to be added. Kintu ubhayartha atmika yaiva bhavyam. Ubhayartha. One must reason with a combined. We should remove something, we should add something, and then we should understand what it is. So how do we remove and add? That's the next verse. Sadeva dattoyamitiha chaikatam viruddha dharma shamapasya katyate yatha tatha tattvam asiti vakye viruddha dharmanubhayatra hitva samlakshya chinmatrataya sadatmanoho akhanda bhava परिचीयते बुधैः एवं महावाक्यशतेन कथ्यते ब्रह्मात्मनोरैक्यमखण्ड भावः. There is a common example given in our Shastras. Saha ayam Devadatta. Devadatta is a person. You would have seen that Devadatta when he was a small boy in Gujarat, maybe. Then you would have gone somewhere, the Devadatta would have gone somewhere, the Devadatta would have traveled somewhere. You've come to Tamil Nadu and somebody is introducing to you that Devadatta you saw in Gujarat, right? When he was a small boy, he was playing cricket on the road. That Devadatta is this Devadatta you are seeing as the CEO of this company in coat, suit and boot and all that, very well groomed and well dressed, and he is doing great work. That Devadatta is this Devadatta who is the CEO of this company. Saha ayam Devadattaha iti iha cha ekata. In the same way, viruddha dharma shama pasya kathyate. Now when you say that Devadatta is this Devadatta, you don't question, how come that Devadatta can be this Devadatta? That Devadatta was a small boy. He was very shabbily dressed. He was playing cricket on the road. He was not so rich. This Devadatta is so well dressed. He has become a big man and he is the CEO of the company. How can that Devadatta be this Devadatta? We don't question. We remove all those differences and we accept that yes, that person is this person. Yatha, in that same way, tatha, tat tvam asi iti vake. That Ishvara is this Jiva. Vake, viruddha dharman ubhayatra hitva. Viruddha dharman means the differences. In the Jiva, there is limitation. In the Ishvara, the limitation of the Panchakoshas. In Ishvara is the limitation of the Maya Upadhi. Ishvara has been called Ishvara and Jiva has been called Jiva. But here Jiva's limitations are the 5 koshas and Ishvara's limitation is the Maya, names and forms, the Upadhi. Remove those limitations, remove these limitations. What is left? That Devadatta is this Devadatta, or this Devadatta is that Devadatta. This Atma is that Ishvara, or this Ishvara is that Atma. Tattvamasi iti vakye उभयत्र हित्वा संलक्ष्य चिन्मात्रतया सदात्मनोः संलक्ष्य. Very well indicated. What is there? Chinmatra. This is also consciousness. This individual also is consciousness. That Ishvara is also consciousness. Oh, only now I realize I have not put the mic. Anyway, it's too late. I hope you've been hearing well without this so far. Anyway, this individual is also consciousness. That Ishvara is also consciousness. Sadatmanoho akhanda bhavaha. There is akhanda, there is no part. This individual is not one part of that Ishvara. Akhanda bhavaha parichiyate buddhaihi. When we understand in this manner, the wise person, evam mahavakya shatena katyate. Hundreds of scriptures declare this mahavakya. How can you say that Jiva is Ishvara? Scriptures are declaring that. The rishis have told that. So we just have to understand what they have told and accept it. Mahavakya shatena katyate. Brahmatmano aikyam akhanda bhavaha. That Brahman and this Atman are one. They are partless. They are not different from each other. That we understand. And with this, we come to the conclusion of verse number 249 from the attitude in meditation. That is verses 250 to 253. Very beautiful verses are going to come in Vivekachoodamani. That will begin again. Our session will begin again on 24th. From tomorrow up to 23, Navaratri, every day on this Chinmaya Surya channel, we are going to have Ashtotra Shatanamavali of Durga for 3 days, Lakshmi for 3 days, and Saraswati for 3 days. So we will revel in the names of Durga, Lakshmi and Saraswati during the Navaratri. And we will begin with the Vivekachoodamani, very, very beautiful verses. I'm so thrilled to be chanting these verses. I'm waiting for that from 24th onwards up to the end of this month. And then we will conclude. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasorma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. बोलिए श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय. हर नमः पार्वती पतये. हर हर महादेव. हरि ओम.